So, good afternoon to all of you, fellow Toastmaster and honored guest. It's my pleasure as the president of the VIC Toastmaster Club to welcome you today to our third meeting of 2021. Again, we have a full meeting with two speakers and table topics and a feedback sessions. But before I turn it over to the Toastmaster of the day, I have two announcements to make. The first one, we will have a guest who's going to come a bit later on in our meeting. This is Aaron Peacock. He's the president of the OAC Toastmaster clubs, and we'll provide him an opportunity to say a few words. That will happen after the prepared speeches and just before we turn on to the table topics. And the second item I will ask Maria Teresa to speak about it is to give us some information on the upcoming club contest, and she will be playing the role of the chief judge, and she'll say a few points on this matter. So I'll let her generally introduce this. But before turning over the floor to her, I would like to welcome Jordana, who is now officially a member of the VIC Toastmaster Club. So welcome, Jordana. It's good to have you on board. And I would like also to ask, I think we have a guest today, Tatiana, who maybe you could introduce yourself and how you heard about Toastmasters. And that would be good if you could say a few words. Tatiana?
Yes, hello. Do you hear me?
Very well.
Yes, it's not the first time I'm here at Toastmasters with you. I've already introduced myself, but I've heard about Toastmasters from my colleagues and in principle about the concept of Toastmasters since maybe 15 years when I started working in Geneva for the UN. I'm from UNIDO and I think it's my second online session here with you at Toastmasters.
So welcome to this session. At the end of the meeting, we'll ask you a little feedback on the meeting.
Thank you.
For that. So thank you for joining us. And now I would like to turn it over to Maria Teresa to say a few words about the upcoming club contest. Maria Teresa.
Thank you, Toastmaster Tristan. Fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, on the 16th of February, we're going to have a variety of club contests. And one of the things, of course, you need for a contest is a judge. And I volunteered to be chief judge, but it's not something I do all on my own. I need to have 5 judges, 2 timers, and 2 ballot counters. And to this end, I'm going to be sending an email in the next day or so, but maybe you might want to mark your calendars now for the 16th of February at our regular time. Now, if you say, oh, I'm too new, I don't know anything about it, rest assured, as your chief judge, I will give you an in-depth briefing and explain what you will have to do. So no fear, no hesitation. Please come forward and volunteer to take a role for the club contest and support your team. So back to you, Tristan.
Thank you, Maria Teresa, for this explanation. We would like just to also remind you that every year, every club in Toastmaster is invited to do a club, and this is part of an overall competition that takes place across the entire Toastmaster universe in a certain way. And we start with a club contest, and then if you're successful at the club contest and you can go to an area contest and so on, to ultimately be able to compete, if successful, all the way in the International Speaks Contest to compete at the annual Toastmaster conference that takes place once a year. So if you're interested to take part in a contest, I would like to invite you to go on EasySpeak, look at the page of the contest, see what are the options, and express your view, and then we will organize the contest next week. On that note, I would like to close this introductory word, and I would like to turn now to Toastmaster Ines, who will be the Toastmaster of the day. Ines.
Thank you. Toastmaster Tristan, or President, and Toastmaster Maria Teresa. I will be hosting the meeting today as the Toastmaster of the day. As Tristan already said, we will have a full meeting, but we also will have an exciting meeting with a lot of exciting topics. And don't forget, we will also have a fun meeting, because Toastmasters is about having fun with each other. Yes, we have to prepare, we have to do our parts, but the fun aspect is very essential. And I hear this from other clubs, because we were also in a training last week, and I also sense that people would like to have this aspect a little bit more highlighted. We have a lot of information to share with each other, and I hope that in this meeting we also will be listening and hearing what others have to share and to say. We will have very exciting presentations, table topics. Overall, as you said, it's a full meeting. We have a guest today, who is Aaron Peacock. I hope he's here. And later on, we would like to get his input as well to the meeting. Can I ask now the general evaluator to present her team before we just go to the core of the meeting? Toastmaster Melanie, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Toastmaster Madam Inez, for that wonderful introduction. Sorry about that. I was distracted for a second. So I'm looking at our agenda, and I'm quite excited because we do have a full agenda. The only issue that I came across now is that our grammarian, who I'd like to introduce, is not yet in. Anna is our grammarian today. So I have a point of order for Maria Teresa. How do we move forward if our grammarian, who would normally introduce our word of the day, is not here?
I can be the grammarian if you want.
Okay, that would be wonderful.
And the word of the day is absent, meaning not being there, not coming.
Okay. So, along with our grammarian, I'd like to introduce my team. I have as our topics master today, Judith. Judith, could you explain what your role will be today in our meeting?
Thank you, Toastmaster Melanie. Yes, I will be leading the table topics, and I have 3 or 4 questions prepared, so I'll be making them to people that they don't know yet who they will be, so they'll have to reply improvisation, like using improvisation. Thank you.
Thank you, Toastmaster Judith. We will have 2 prepared speeches today. The first given by the first from Nicole and the second from Eshan, with 2 evaluators. The first evaluator will be Adot, who I don't know if she's arrived yet either. Let me check, no. And the second evaluator is going to be Sila, who will evaluate Eshan. We have a timekeeper, that is Maria Teresa. Maria Teresa, would you like to explain your role as our timekeeper today?
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. I haven't done this in years, so I'm feeling very insecure and nervous. So I wanted to explain to you all that maybe it's also clear what my role is. For the prepared speeches, which the time is required 5 to 7 minutes, at 5 minutes, I will put up green. At 6 minutes, I will put up yellow. And at 7 minutes, I will put up red. For the table topics where the target time is 2 to 3 minutes, I beg your pardon, table topics 1 to 2 minutes, 1 minute green, 1.5 yellow, and 2 minutes red. And for the evaluations, the target time is 2 to 3 minutes. So up goes at 2 minutes green. I hope we're not colorblind in here. At 2 minutes goes green, at 2.5 yellow, and at 3 minutes red. and then I will present my report in the context of the general evaluation. So I return control to Melanie and make a suggestion that maybe we switch the order since we don't have people here, and we let Asan go ahead with his speech to be evaluated by Scylla and hope that the others show up. Back to you, Melanie.
Thank you, Toastmaster Teresa. That was a great idea. I think we'll do that. The last two that I have on our agenda today as my evaluation team is our counter, which will be Monica. Monica, could you explain to us what a counter does?
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. My role today is to count the gap fillers like and also the repetitions like and, or other repetitions. And at the end of the day, I will provide a report. Back to you, Madam General Evaluator.
And our last role, which is also a very important role that helps out, is our ballot counter. For the first time, Karen is taking this role. Karen, would you like to explain what your role will be?
Thank you, Melanie. Yes, after the table topics, you all will have to send your vote to me via private message, and I will announce the winner for the table topics of today at the end, almost at the end of the meeting.
Thank you, Karen. So that concludes our agenda and all of my evaluation team. And I turn control of the meeting back over to our Toastmaster of the day, Inez.
Fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, I suggest that we start with our first speech of the day, the speech given by Asan. Asan is having very interesting, innovative ideas. When I was talking to him, when he was preparing the speech or his presentation, and the issue of data is getting more and more relevant in our daily life, but certainly also in Toastmasters. So we would be very curious and very happy to hear from him what he suggests and what he found in his research. However, before I ask Asan to take the floor, I would ask his evaluator, Toastmaster Scylla, to give us an idea what the objectives are of his speech today. Toastmaster Scylla.
Thank you, Toastmaster Inez. And hi, everyone. Oh, can you hear? Can you hear? No? Or, okay.
Toastmaster Scylla.
She's saying that she loves us all and that she wishes us a great meeting. I don't know.
Okay. I suggest that you send us in the chat the objectives in 1 or 2 sentences. We will have a look at it. And in the meantime, you can then organize the technical issues you have at the moment. In order not to lose too much time, I would ask Toastmaster Asan to take the floor. The floor is yours, Toastmaster Asan.
Thank you, Ines. Thank you for announcing. Can I just share my screen, because I just made a presentation out of it, because it's, for me, it's easier to make a presentation. So I'm just going to share my screen. So, wait, I just prepare this. Okay. Okay. So, fellow Toastmasters, honorary guests, Definitely, we all hear a lot about the data these days. So how the data is shaping our life, how we are providing our personal data to some companies, or I don't know, with this technology era, let's say, we cannot resist consciously or unconsciously providing data to outside, let's say, outside data collectors. So here I want to just briefly, I want to explain some kind of definitions to just reduce the confusion, because there is some definition between data scientist and data analyst, and then analysis and analytics. For example, data scientist uses a multidisciplinary methods or even art to shape the data, to make a sense out of the data. And if I want to just explain very briefly, there is a difference between data science and data analysis. Data scientists use a lot of mathematics for making a data models, and the data analyst mostly use the results of a data scientist. And analysis and analytics, there is a difference also. The analysis is kind of using the historical data to see what was happening in past. And the data analytics is using the historical data to shape the future decision making. So there is some steps in the work of the data, working with the data. And the first step is a data collection. This data collecting or data collection is coming from different sources. Maybe you are using, I don't know, sensoric data. In my previous job, I was getting the data from sensoric data. But in this, in the recent job that I have in UNIDO, in HR, I get the data which is a pre-arranged data. It's a human factor data, people data. And we cannot change it, I cannot manipulate it. I cannot change the birth date of some person in order to make sense out of this data. So it's fixed data. And in this step, in the data science step, we have data manipulation and data cleaning, which is the 80% of all salaries that the data scientists and data analysts are getting in their job. 80% of their time is, let's say, wasting to clean the data. And after these steps, we have the EDA, exploratory data analysis, which I'm using it in my job. I'm looking to data for the geographical analysis, let's say diversities or gender parity analysis, to how many percentage of female are involved in such a position or male. So this is part of that. And the last step is analysis happens, which there is a different techniques. Machine learning comes, which is artificial intelligence, deep learning, neural network is involved. I'm not going in a deep to explain it, maybe in future in another session. And we had a basic Toastmaster data, which I got thanks to Ines, Lily, and Tristan and Melanie. They helped me to get to this data. But this data was not that straightforward. As you can see, it's a big mess. Even I manipulated somehow. For example, if there was this color, I could not attend or no attend. So I had to manipulate a lot. Then I just got a very simple, let's say, conclusion out of this data that we had. For example, the total members of VIC TM at the moment on board is the 29 members that we have. And for the period of, because the data that I'm using is from the period of 7th of April 2020 till today, which is 9th February, for last 10 months. And for last 10 months, we had 36 active sessions. So if we see this graph, which simply just, because this is a just simple EDA graphs, so it's not some kind of rocket science or something, but if you see, we can see in the first session in 7th April, we had 11 attendance. And then we had all different sessions. We had different numbers of attendance headcounts. But what is most interesting at the moment is our trend here. The trend shows us that we are growing. The number of attendance is growing. Let's not look at this one because 12 is for today, because today should not be counted because I just took this data 3 days ago. Then we have number of sessions. Number of sessions we can see this is 2021 and this is 2020. We can see the highest number of session in 1 month. 1 month was for June, which was 6 sessions in 1 month. And for last 2 months, January and February, we had 3 sessions already. And here we can see as a quarter, second quarter and fourth quarter is it's exactly same number of attendance, 13. But there is another interesting thing that I can fast and shortly I have to go through it is frequent attendances, the maximum and minimum. The maximum was 30 and 32 and 36 and minimum 0, which was Birgit and David never show up. But Nicole, Ines, Tristan, Melanie, and Maria Teresa, they had 30 attendance. And Maria Teresa, thanks to her, she had 36 out of 36 sessions. And for the conclusion, according to the data, pandemic could not prevent TM from their regular meeting. We could see constant members in this simple analytics, minimum and maximum frequent attendance. The proposal that I'm going to give is why not we use analytically keeping track on the time in each session by timekeeper. Thank you. I give the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Toastmaster Ishan. Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you so much. So the truth of our VIC data or the manipulation. I think you showed us, you have given us the mirror to look at, and the information is interesting. I didn't know a lot of these details from the statistics of the last 6 months, perhaps. And perhaps we can use this information for our annual report to the UN, because that would make it also very interesting. We will be using now the possibility to give to Ishan a short 1 minute, the duration is 1 minute. We want to give him a short evaluation on the chat. And I would like to get a timer to help us to monitor this first evaluation. Yes, thank you. Fine, our 1 minute is up. We will be moving now to the second speech by Toastmaster Nicole. Toastmaster Nicole, Maria Teresa has a point.
Yeah, Toastmaster of the day, Toastmaster Inez, we do not have an evaluator for Toastmaster Nicole at present. So I propose we go straight into the table topics, and then if the evaluator returns, everything is saved. Otherwise, with people being absent, we have a problem.
Okay, I have asked in the meantime through the chat Toastmaster Alois, if he could take up the evaluator's role for Nicole. Toastmaster Alois, are you there? Toastmaster Alois? Okay, don't hear. We're waiting then for a while.
Using that word absent today. Maybe if I have a point of order, I'd like to request that the presiding officer introduces our guest as he's here, and we're in a bit of a absent-minded funk right now.
Okay, yes. Please, Aaron, Toastmaster Aaron, please go ahead.
Why don't we have Tristan first introduce him?
Tristan, Toastmaster Tristan.
Thank you, Ines. And it's my honor to welcome Aaron Peacock, who is well known, I think, in the IEA at least, and who is now at the OSCE, where we understand that the OSCE a few years ago or recently established a corporate club, a club that is actually designed for staff and limited in the audience. And we're very happy to have Aaron with us today to share a bit of thoughts on how things are going in this neighboring club that is also not far in the concept from the VIC, as the OSCE is also an international organization. Toastmaster Aaron, over to you.
Thank you, Tristan. I'm not sure really where to begin, except I think I'm hanging on to my office by virtue of us not having an election. The president's supposed to have a term of 1 year under the Toastmaster rules, I think. And I was reelected, I think, because they couldn't find anyone better or anyone else. Not that there's no one better than me. And then we should have had an election, I think, in October. And with the pandemic, we've just not been as active. I have to really admire your club. It's really great to see, what is it, 13 people here. It's impressive to see you still engaging so actively. Because I think once we went into lockdown, we probably had 4 meetings after that, which was great for bringing people's skills up. And I think a lot of people obtained new skills, and the Toastmasters Club, we call it the Speakers Club, really helped us to ramp up the skills very quickly. And we didn't do things like breakout rooms because that's not suitable for a Toastmaster meeting. But we did a lot of things like, I see you're using the applause really nicely, being able to give some kind of private feedback in the chat, and just people getting comfortable with using this new technology and speaking with this new technology and finding ways to use background and to position yourself. And even if you had to be on the phone to actually make it stick in a place where it's not flopping all around all the time. I'm sure those are those early on things in the pandemic that people made really simple mistakes on. And this was a fantastic way for people to learn. But unfortunately, it seems since really the summertime, our group has kind of dissipated a little bit. There's been a lot more people absent, if I could use the word, than there had been before. And so we just really have been inactive for a while. But just to explain a little bit about how we do it, the other part of the reason why I think I was really elected is because I pay for the club, or my team does, because we recognize this as an official learning event. And I'm the head of what we now call talent development. We used to call it learning and development, and I think the IEA called it staff development. I'm not sure what you call it now. We rebrand these things all the time just to keep you on your toes. But what we do is we actually subsidize the fees for all of the participants. And actually staff council pays for the joiner fee, the annual joiner fee, which is great. So we have a nice collaboration between our kind of staff committee, which we call the staff council, and our official learning. And I think this is one of the most effective learning interventions that we had starting 2 years ago, honestly, because we've done presentation courses, presentation skills, and you have 2 days, maybe somebody takes a video of you and you can practice. When you're doing this day in and day out, or week in and week out, I'm sure you all recognize, and I heard Ezan, I heard this was your first speech, so congratulations, or maybe one of your early ones. It's amazing to me the progress that I saw by people within 6 months to a year, where they really progressed from being very nervous, having a lot of ahs and ums, and really making huge progress in their confidence, their ability to speak. And as far as I'm concerned, it is really money well spent. So if you can lobby your your HR team to do that. I think it's a very good use of funds for the organization. And yeah, it's definitely a growth opportunity, and it fits right within the kind of more modern ways of learning rather than having a 2-day course that's fixed. And especially with the pandemic, that's just something that's less and less possible because you get Zoom fatigue. You can't do 8 hours a day on Zoom. So to have a 90-minute meeting or a 1-hour meeting, just excellent and a great way to practice. So I'm happy to do some questions. I'd be actually interested in doing a bit of collaboration, or if maybe some of us can come in as guests, or you can come in as guests if it might motivate some of our people to throw together a meeting. So get us rejuvenated, restarted.
Thank you, Aaron, for sharing your thoughts and your experience at the OSCE, establishing the club and how you set it up. And actually, it was very good you came and you just saw a bit of Asian's speech, because it gives a recap of actually a very active year we had at the VIC Toastmaster Club. It became a bit more complicated for some of our guests who really liked or appreciate more the in-person, but we basically also learned the new skills by actually doing it in a virtual format. And I think it also proved to be quite happy, and it's going to be a challenge to switch back to the physical at some stage also for some of us, as our people also used to work remotely, and to bring back everybody on site. So I'm sure we'll have also a transition from that perspective. I don't know if anyone has questions, or if we maybe continue with the meeting in the interest of time. So, and please stay with us, and thank you very much for the invitation. And I turn it back over to Toastmaster Ines, who is running the meeting today.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Tristan. As to the questions, I would like to give a couple of minutes to our Toastmasters to ask some questions to Aaron. Can you give us an idea, for example, what you have said, Aaron? My first question to you is, what is the main goal you have set for your Toastmasters Club for the members, for example, 2021?
It's a good question, but for 2021, we've honestly set no goals because we haven't met it all this year. But for last year, it was to expand the membership, which was a struggle. And I think as soon as the pandemic hit, it became kind of impossible. It's interesting because we're very decentralized. So in other learning activities, we've seen that people from across the organization, who usually we wouldn't be able to invite to Vienna just for cost reasons, they were able to participate in a lot of learning events. So if we took that lesson on, we had been thinking a little bit about, should we expand our membership beyond just Vienna, because we can join by Zoom. But really the goal from the very outset of the club as a corporate club has been improving our speaking skills. It's just simple as that. I think some people have the goal of improving their leadership skills as they take on officer roles. And we've really needed to look into trying to grow the club in that way of identifying people who are willing to step up and willing to take leadership roles. But again, like I said, it's been, I think Maria Teresa wrote me on the side and said, you know, the club's maybe sleeping. And that's, I think, a very generous way of putting it. We're in deep hibernation at the moment. So.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else from our Toastmasters membership here? The members who would like to ask questions, burning questions, clarifications, etc. Maria Teresa, Toastmaster Maria Teresa, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Toastmaster Ines. Toastmaster Aaron, it's nice to see you after all these years. We're staying alive. In any event, my question, maybe you did say it, but it went over my head. Do you have online meetings or do you meet in person?
No in-person meeting at OSCE. We have about 5 or 6% of staff on any day who are actually in the building. So in-person meetings would be impossible and undesirable and not following our guidelines in any way. So everything, if we do meet, is online, but like I said, we haven't met for since the summertime.
I went to Easy Speak and I could see no evidence of any meetings going on, and it was very bare when it even came to mentioning officers and members.
True, true.
But can any of us become a member of your club? Or would you like to invite people perhaps to join us?
I think so. I think we did a couple of years ago have a crossover member. One of our founding members was Simon Degnan, that's an Irish guy, and I'm pretty sure he was a member in your club for a while. I'm not sure if he still is, but he moved over to the VIC. Yeah.
I also recall, I think you have a colleague called Matanat, correct? She, many years ago, was a member of Toastmasters. Ask her about it. I remember her well.
Mm. She left about 6 years ago, but yeah, she's not with us anymore. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Maria Teresa. In view of the fact that we have taken a decision, and if Nicole agrees, we will defer your speech to the next meeting. Is that okay? Toastmaster Nicole?
Well, yes and no, because I did get prepared for today, and I don't know whether I'll be able to come in 2 weeks, and I would have preferred, and if the same thing happens in 2 weeks, we're back to square one.
Fine.
Alois is not, you couldn't get in touch with Alois, or
No,
it's just a microphone problem?
Okay.
I could do it if you want.
Okay. Toastmaster Tristan, could you please be then the evaluator of Toastmaster Nicole?
Yes, it's my pleasure to be the evaluator of Toastmaster Nicole. Nicole is a very experienced Toastmaster. Today, we're going to hear presentation mastery pathway level 2. And what we're looking is effective body language.
Okay.
We would like to talk about a topic where movements and gestures are visible and helps in delivering her message. So what we're interested is focusing on nonverbal communication, and that's where she's seeking feedback for her meeting, for her speech today. And that completes my presentation of the evaluation.
Okay. Toastmaster Nicole.
Before you start the chronometer, I would like to thank Tristan for jumping it at the last minute. And since I switched computers, I would like to make sure that all of you can see me and hear me.
Absolutely.
Good, so you can start the chronometer now. You see, I understood perfectly well when you did this. And I'm sure that you will understand when I move my hand like this from right to left and from left to right. Or if I move my hand like this forward, some of you, however, might resent it if I point my finger at you. Fellow Toastmasters, honored guests. You see, we use our voice to communicate with each other. But we also use our body and in particular, our hands. It's so natural that we don't pay attention to it. But maybe we should for different reasons. The first one is that the hand language is a very subtle language when you start thinking about it. Let's take the hand with all fingers together. If I go like this, you see, I'm the Queen of England waving at the crowd. Except that since I'm not the Queen of England, I'm probably doing it not so right. My hand like here, I bend it a little bit and I go like this. That reminds me of my mother when I was a child, and that was a warning sign. If you keep doing the stupid thing you're doing, there will be dire consequences. I move my hand a bit like this. And as I said, I go like this. So it could be hello or goodbye, you understand. If I push it forward, it is stop. At least for some of you, maybe not for all. And this is the second reason why we have to pay attention to our hand language, because it varies from culture to culture and from country to country. Let me give you two examples. When I lived in Thailand, I remember that once I went to a restaurant. I wanted to pay the bill, or the check if you prefer, and I waved at the waiter. That was okay. And then I did this. And he brought me a piece of paper and a pen. Had I done it properly, I should have put my finger down and go in a circle. Second example. You see, in our Western and particularly Christian countries, when we join our hands like this, it means a prayer, or it means we're invoking God. In Thailand, it is a greeting gesture. It's the way people greet each other. And the higher the hands, the higher the person in front of you in the social hierarchy. That's still okay. But there's a third reason why you should really pay attention, especially if you travel. Because what can be okay in one country can be rude or offending in another one, or can lead to misunderstandings. Let me go back to the gesture I made at the very beginning. This one. You see, for a lot of us, it means stop. But in certain countries, it's a very rude gesture, especially in Greece, for instance, where it means I don't want you, I'm banishing you. So be careful you don't do that in Greece. This one, the pointed finger. I remember my mother telling me, you don't point at people. Walt Disney is now teaching this stuff never to use that pointed finger. And in Toastmasters, where we're such an international community, I was told that when we want to point at something or somebody, we use the open hand. And the last one I would like to show you, and that's a difficult one for me because I'm not used to it, it's this one, with the two fingers pointed. Until recently, it didn't mean anything to me, so I was okay. But I heard that in the United States, it's quite a common gesture. And it is used in sport events. And it means in the rock and roll community, well, man, it's cool, man. Fine. Well, try, especially if you're a man, using that in southern Italy, for instance. You're going to get into trouble. Because if you do this to a man, this is a pair of horns. And if you put a pair of horns on a man's head, it means you're betraying, well, while you're sleeping with his wife and his girlfriend. So you'd better run fast. And finally, you see, in certain countries, using your hands too much is considered not so proper. And I have a particular country in mind. But in other countries like Italy, precisely, it is a second language. I'm sure that all of you know this gesture here, you know. The Italians do this all the time. It's like a punctuation mark. It's like a question mark. It's like an exclamation mark. But it's not the only one. You have this one, you have this one, you have this one, you have this one, you have this one. You have a whole lot of them. So if you're going to go to Italy, and if you plan to stay in Italy, you might want to learn that language if you want to understand them and if you want to participate in a conversation. But Toastmasters honored guest, to sum it up a little bit, you see, the hand language is so natural that we don't pay attention to it. But it's very subtle and it can change so much from one culture and one country to the other that we have to be careful that the gestures that we're using are not leading to misunderstandings or to an offense. And now, I hope that you will understand the way I'm taking leave of you.
Toastmaster Nicole, I am so happy that we went ahead and let you do your presentation. You are a Polish speaker and with a lot of cross-cultural experience, we know that, and you have shown that. And in fact, this information is actually very essential for our missions, because there is a lot of communication there. Thank you very much. In the meantime, I would like to give 1 minute to our fellow Toastmasters and guests to give a short evaluation, and I would like to ask Maria Teresa to do the timing. Thank you. Thank you, Maria Teresa. The next session, the next part of our session is the table topics, where impromptu speaking is very important. Sorry. And we have a challenge was being given to us by the topics master, Toastmaster Judith. Toastmaster Judith, this fun session is in your hands. Please.
Thank you, Toastmaster Ines. First of all, I have to say I'm really happy to be doing this because I'm on the other side, so I know what to ask, so no improvisation for me. So I was thinking about the topic, and actually creativity was quite absent yesterday, and I didn't know what to ask about. So I thought, okay, let's think about the day that it's going to be today. It's going to be 9th of February, so let's think about this day. So I have some questions related to this day. So the first one would be for Pinar. So on this day in 1942, I'll give some information also. Carole King, which is an American singer, was born, and she wrote the famous song, "You've Got a Friend." So speaking of friendships, Pinar, which friends have played or are playing the most important role in your life? Those from your childhood, adolescence, or the current ones?
Okay, thank you for this great question. Let me just think about it quickly. Okay, being a friend, almost the most important thing, being supportive for me. That means, I mean, sometimes being supportive that doesn't mean always saying nice thing or constructive feedback. I mean, being honest during during my friendship relation. So I can say honesty and being supportive, they are the most important aspect from my perspective about friendship. Thank you again for this great question. Yeah.
Thank you, Pinar.
Thank you, Pinar.
Friendships are super important, and especially during these times. So another question, this time is for Jordana, or Gordana, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it well. Another thing that happened on this day, but in 1945, is that Mia Farrow, you know her, it's an American actress, was born. and she starred in a movie, in a drama. It was a comedy movie called The Purple Rose of Cairo. And something that happens in that movie is that a character from the movie gets out of the movie. So my question to you would be, imagining the opposite, in which movie would you like to get in, be part of the story? I don't know, because of the what happens, or the time, the age it's in place. So please, first.
Thank you, Judith, for this question. It does require a little thinking. I would say there is not a particular movie that I can tell you, because I feel like there's a lot of movies that I can take pieces of it and then combine my own story. But I really like the movies of Juliette Binoche. She's a French actress. And I like the stories of the movies that she's into, particular because, I mean, they're quite different. They vary from historical, from the 40s, you know, involving war, but then from the modern time. But why I like the movie she's into is, of course, first, her amazing actress skills. But overall, it's because she is in movies that explore the depth of humanity, what it means to be a human, and she goes deeper. I mean, in the movies, she doesn't write the script. She's just the actress, but she's portraying those emotions, those deep thoughts, deep analysis on everyday life that we have, even how we think as people, and things that we don't even discuss, how we grieve, or why are we happy when we are happy, and a lot of topics that also we don't discuss very easily with other human beings. And it's very clear, very thought-provoking, and it is always a good conversation afterwards for me. And I remember bits and pieces quite well. I don't remember the whole things, but bits and pieces, and I can relate to my life or to the discussions that I want to have or have.
Thank you. I haven't watched any movie about those that you are referring to, so I will do some research. Thank you. So the next question is for Gabriela. So again, on this day, but in 2002, Princess Margaret, the Queen Elizabeth sister, died. And if you watch this famous series that now it's super trendy, The Crown, and you know about her, she had everything in life. She had money, security, luxury, but she lacked some essential things. So for you, what do you think is important for you to enjoy a happy life, aside of luxury and security and money?
Thank you, Judith, for the great question. I think throughout all the years, humans have always thought about, so what is happiness? What does one needs to be happy? And I think it really depends on, of course, on the time and on each person. For me personally, I think happiness is being with my family or being in contact with my family, having friends that I can go hiking or meet for a coffee. It's also important for me to have an interesting job. I think I would be very, very sad if I were on a boring job. So having challenges is important. And I think personally, I don't think money is the key to happiness, but it's important to have, of course, food and a place to live. And why not some money to travel? Because when we travel, we get to know about other people. And the more we get to know about other people, we also learn about ourselves. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. And the last question is for Monica. So on this day last year, we weren't really aware of what would happen. So my question for you would be, what have you learned during this last year? What positive aspects have you learned during the last year, since last 9th of February, when we were still not, we were naive and we didn't know about what was about to happen? Thank you.
Thank you, Judith, for this interesting question. I think I learned a lot last year, not only about myself, but about life and about our society. I learned, for example, to not take things for granted. We were used to traveling, to going out whenever we wanted to, having fun, just going to restaurants, going for a walk, hugging our parents, our friends. And these things change all of a sudden. I also learned that we have to be grateful for being healthy and being helpful for everything that we have. Not think that this is something very common for everybody. And I think this pandemic changed our lives and made us more vulnerable and made us aware as well that everything can change from one moment to the other. And we are somehow all connected, because if we are not being careful here, immediately you saw what happened. It started in China, it came to Italy, and then it went to the whole world. So we are somehow all connected. And if something happens here, it has repercussions somewhere else in the world. So, I mean, I learned to be more thankful for what I have and to live like more 100% a second, a moment, you know, like really enjoy every single thing, and enjoy like little things that, for example, just going out or talking to friends or going out for a restaurant or traveling. I mean, now we cannot do all these things, but I'm aware that we are, that all these things can change from one moment to the other. So we really should be thankful and grateful for what we have, and especially being thankful for being healthy and living here now, and to realize that these things you can't take for granted. So yeah, this is my main message and what I learned last year. Back to you.
Thank you, thank you. I think we shared the same lessons learned, and many people around the world. So thanks to all of you, and Toastmaster Ines, back to you.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Judith. Great questions, great answers, really very entertaining. And also the combination with history is amazing. We would like to ask now the ballot counter to be ready, and the Toastmasters who have given their answers. I start with Pinar, Toastmaster Gordana, Toastmaster Gabriela, Toastmaster Monica. This will be a tough one. Great answers. And with that, the ballot counter is, because things have changed, is this Monica? What's the ballot counter?
Karen.
Yeah, Karen. Yeah, sorry, Karen. So please send your choices to Toastmaster Karen. Can I now hand over control of the meeting to Toastmaster Melanie for the evaluation session? Toastmaster Melanie as the general evaluator.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster Ines. And to start off my team of evaluations, I'd first like to call upon our first evaluator for the speech that Eshan gave, and that was Sila. Sila, would like to hear your evaluation of Eshan.
much, Melanie. Can you all hear me now? Yeah, thanks. Sorry for the hiccups just now. And congratulations, Izan. It did not happen to you for the PowerPoint on the audio, so excellent. This is your second speech, and your speech title is Making Sense of Existing Data. And the main objective is to research and present an unfamiliar topic. Organize the speech clearly to maximize the audience understanding. And as we can all tell, you are definitely very much into data. I think this is something that came across quite strongly from your speech. The structure that I can see from your speech is like threefold. First, you present to us a theory of the data science, the main points that you want to draw our attention to, some differences between data scientists, data analysts, and then you actually apply it by making use of the Toastmaster data, the membership data that you get. And then you did some analysis and you applied the data analysis to tell us some conclusion that you can find out from this exercise. So I think the structure is very clear that there is the theory part, there is the application, and there is the conclusion that you want to draw our attention to. This is an excellent structure, but I would challenge you to actually make it a bit more explicit outset to sort of increase the interest of the audience. Because as we listen and as we go along, I can understand, the main point of this analysis that you're doing, but then it only came across to me like clear a bit later. So either you want to create a suspense by, informing us that this is somehow in relation to the club to keep the audience interest, or you make it very clear at the beginning so that we can all follow through very clearly. So this is in terms of the structure of the speech, as I can hear. And for the presentation, you have very beautiful PowerPoint. Thanks for that. It's very clear. The color is amazing. And I like it personally because it's not very wordy. I kind of like, one lost touch when you read a PowerPoint that is full of text. Particularly, it's quite a serious topic. But I would say since you used the PowerPoint already, so the visual part for us, your body gesture becomes less important because our attention would normally be done on the PowerPoint. And so the use of the vocal variety might be something that can sort of increase the impact of your speech. Because whatever body gesture that you do, it would be override by the PowerPoint. So the voice, you have a very clear voice, and I think the pace is very good, but possibly the use of the voice, where you want to emphasize, you might want to speak slower, louder, and those points might come a bit stronger. So as I can see, the time is up. I still have a few more points, but I would probably, relate to it personally. But thank you very much for your, clear speech and to tell us a very interesting topic. But I would challenge you the next time also not to use PowerPoint, because I can see you use it for your first time already. This is the second speech. Maybe the first speech, you don't need it anymore. Thank you again, Isan.
Thank you, Sila. Thank you for feedback.
And thank you to Toastmaster Sila for your very in-depth evaluation of Eshan. I'm sure he's going to take what you've said to heart, and he'll get it back in a written form in his evaluation. And so I'm sure he'll read it over and over. Moving on with our agenda, we have our second speech that was conducted by Nicole. And luckily we had Tristan, who was able to jump in and be her evaluator. So I'm going to turn the floor over to Tristan to give his evaluation of Nicole's speech. Toastmaster Tristan.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. Nicole. Hands up. You choose a perfect topic, almost a bit too perfect, actually, to demonstrate the use of hand gesture and body gesture. Maybe it would have been a bit more challenging to take another topic where the use of the hands or the body gesture would have been a bit more tricky, but it was very well done. We have in front of us a very experienced speaker. You can see how fluid Nicole is in her delivery. There's a clear message. she's got a very strong standing position. You can feel that she's really well standing, well footed, on total control of her speech. In terms of structure, the message, I like your points. I love the example of Thailand, that you are sharing a personal example, and I also do a sign like this when I ask for the bill in a restaurant, so I could relate to your message, and I think that's very important to relate to the audience of that. But I was not sure how the message was structured in itself. If I look at retrospectively, however, I like your closing. You had a very strong and powerful closing, which made a full use of the hand gestures as such. Maybe another point for you to think about it, and it's just it's a small idea. You're standing. You have a beautiful background, which could look like a fake one, but it's actually truly your library at home. So the background tends to be a heavy background in terms of there's a lot of design. So when you move your hands in the background, you see them less because it's not a uniform background. So watch out of that, especially if you want to reinforce the message. However, your dress or you were dressed in dark, in front of your body works very well because you had a high contrast. So just a little tiny things to consider, especially if you want to use gesture. Otherwise, it looks very neutral. So once again, thank you very much to share your thoughts and your message on hand gesture. It was a great learning experience, and well done. Look forward to hear more from you. Thank you.
Thank you, Toastmaster Tristan. Moving on with our agenda, we have actually from you as well, Toastmaster Tristan, the report from the grammarian, because you were so kind to take that role as well today. And you will give us some ideas of the language and how many of us have used the word of the day, absent.
Thank you, Madam General Elevator. The grammarian is the role I'm the most dreadful about. If I can pick any other role than grammarian, I pick another role, because I find it very difficult for me to identify and to be sufficiently attentive to actually look into the details. So here, there's probably more things that came, but here are a couple of examples that I noticed. Eshan, at some stage you say, I'm not going into a deep to explain it. This going into a deep or going into depth, or you might want to use another type of expression to explain that you want to go into the details on that specific point. And at another occasion, you say the third and fourth quarter, it's the equal number of attendance. Well, we had the same amount or the equal number of attendance for each quarter. The way you worded it, and maybe you listened to it, sounded a bit grammatically not necessarily the most perfect. And Sila, just a point, you have a beautiful language and an expression of the use of English, but at some stage you say, I have a few more points that I will relate personally, maybe in person, or I was not sure if we should word it exactly like this. Otherwise, in terms of the use of absent, I heard the general elevator just using once the word absent at the last minute as a sign of recovery. But otherwise, I heard Ines and Maria Teresa, maybe some other people used it. And the crown of the day, because we have to give a crown of the day. I love the expression used by Toastmaster Nicole when she said it varies from country to country, culture to culture. And both starts with a C. It had a beautiful rim, and I thought it was a beautiful use of English. This concludes my report.
Thank you, Toastmaster Tristan. I agree, being a grammarian, you have to really be listening. Even as a native speaker, it's quite challenging to pick up everything that could be used in a different context. And sometimes in the English language, there are so many ways to say the same thing. So is it right or wrong? It depends maybe if you're from England, America, Australia. So it is a very challenging role, and it's nice to see that people sign up for that. And when we have times that we have to fill in, it does cause quite a challenge to get our meeting started. But moving right along with an experienced Toastmaster who took a quite simple role today, Maria Teresa, would you like to give us some feedback on our times today?
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. Well, it's not an easy role. And I have, after this experience, much more respect for the timer because you're constantly shifting around. If I didn't applaud everybody who spoke, it's because I was challenged. But here's my report. For the prepared speeches, the target times were between 5 to 7 minutes. Asan took 6:58 and Nicole took 6:42. For the table topics, Pinar took 35 seconds, Gordana 1 minute 59 seconds, Gabriela 1 minute 19 seconds, Monica 2 minutes 14 seconds. And for the evaluations, Stella took 3 minutes and 30 seconds, and Tristan took 2 minutes and 51 seconds. And I just add a comment, Nicole, for me, if I was grammarian, I would have given you the grammarian's crowns for proper. That was brilliant and perfect in this context of your speech. But I return control to Melanie because we're running out of time and running very late. Melanie, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Toastmaster Maria Teresa. Our agenda keeps going, but it's almost at its closing. We have our all counter, Monica, to tell us how we were doing with our ahs and ums.
So, Madam General Evaluator, this is my report. I will start with Tristan. I mean, Tristan spoke a lot, and unfortunately, you had as many M's and M's, 18, more or less 8. Actually, I stopped counting. Then I continue with Karen, 3, Essen, 6, Judith, 7, Pinar, 6, Gordana, 5, Gabriela, 4, Sheila, 4, and Melanie, actually, you didn't have any until the end when you introduced a grammarian. Then you had 1. That's it. I'm sorry, I'm very strict today. Back to you.
Thank you, Monica. I wish we had our jar to put our money in. And I'm sure the only reason why I had that was the grammarian makes me nervous. So to close up for today, we have one last is our ballot counter. So the ballot counter, Karen, who jumped in for the absent role that we had. Actually, no, Monica, you took 2 roles. Karen, will you tell us who the winner of our table topics is today?
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. Our absolute winner of today's table topics is Monica.
Ah.
Back to you, Madam General Evaluator.
Bravo, Monica. So now you'll have my final evaluation of this meeting. And to start off with, we did start on time. We had a bit of confusion with the roles. And this is something I'd like to avoid in the future. I run around as your VPE at the last minute sending emails to see if someone can take a role or if we can, if we have someone that takes 2 roles like Monica so generously did, if she would be willing to give up 1. And then we all have busy schedules. As you can see now, Vonya just joined us, and that was really out of her comfort zone because she was in a meeting. Aaron came in late, people have to leave early. This is bound to happen. And as an evaluator, I could critique every part of this and say, well, we have to be organized. But I'm just so glad that we all make an effort to show up every other Tuesday. And we're getting together as well next Tuesday. So that's going to be, for some of us on the executive committee, 3 Tuesdays in a row. So let's just keep this presence up, because as you heard from the president of the OSC Club, Aaron, earlier, they haven't had a meeting since the summer. And at least we're still making an effort. We're coming together. The roles, of course, aren't always filled, and we jump around at the last minute, but that's life. You know, we have to be flexible. And as far as all of our speeches, we were a bit having to change the first speech to the second. Nicole, thank you for insisting that you still went through with your speech. It was outstanding. I enjoyed it very much, being someone who can really relate to all the hand gestures, and at least you didn't use this one or that one. So it's very encouraging to hear you all coming out each Tuesday, taking your lunch break, making this meeting happen, and just showing up. So now I would like to turn control of our meeting back over to our Toastmaster of the day, Inez. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Toastmaster Melanie. As the general evaluator, as we know, Toastmastering is about planning, but it's also about improvising, and we did well. We rose up to this challenge. Well done, Toastmasters. With that, I'm handing over control of the meeting back to the president, Toastmaster Tristan. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Toastmaster Ines, for running this meeting today. And in interest of time, I'll be very quick. I would like just to ask Tatiana how she felt about the meeting today, if she has would like to share any thought after attending this second meeting.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Or just to use the hierarchy here, I'm always impressed by the way how smoothly the meetings are going, how rules are respected. And I'm just trying to figure out whether I would be able to do the same if I join the club and try to express myself. I was especially impressed by the table speeches, like unprepared and creative discussions. And I learned a couple of interesting points for myself, especially about hands gesturing and the negative impact it can have on your speech if you don't pay attention. Thank you very much again for having me here today.
Thank you, Tatiana. I see that Maria Teresa has her hands up.
Hands up. Thank you, Toastmaster Tristan. I didn't mention it as the timer and as the chief judge. In our contest situation, the timing is crucial because you will be disqualified. You can have the best speech in the world, the best evaluation, the best table topic, but if you go at least inside or outside the target time, it's over. So I suggest, and I don't know how to do it yet, but there's a function in Zoom where you can pin a particular person. I suggest you learn how to pin the timer in the meantime. Toastmaster Tristan.
Thank you, Toastmaster Maria Teresa. And Nicole, you would like to say something? Go ahead.
Yes, sorry. Okay, I have 2 points of order, especially with the upcoming contest. The first one is actually, yes, the timing, because the timing is going to be very important. And Maria Teresa, yes, you can pin, but if you talk, you might want to see more than one person for different reasons, to see the reactions of your audience, for instance. So it's the responsibility of the timer also to be very clear in the way he or she shows the cards. And when it comes to the red card, to really put it in front of your camera so that it becomes bigger than just a small card and leave it there. Because, and even with the orange card, in order for the person who speaks to know where he or she is in the time span that she has or he has. The second thing is I fully take the point that Tristan made with the background. If we're going to compete, I don't know if anyone is going to come up with a speech where you can be sure that other contestants will have worked on their backgrounds, and some of them are going to come up with a pretty elaborate background. And you see, I didn't realize, it took me so much time with this damn background that I ended up changing my computer, you see, and then I said, okay, no background like the one I have now, but still, it's very important, and I think that Tristan had a very strong point there. Thank you.
Thank you, Toastmaster Nicole. And maybe just one final point, jumping a bit on Tatiana comments. Last Friday, I had to present with the Director General of the IEA and 5 other DDGs. We had to present the program and budget for 2022 and 2023. And I can tell you that my experience at Toastmaster made a real difference in the way I delivered the speech in that virtual meeting in front of our entire membership. And the fact of not reading, the fact of speaking, also all these gimmicks about the hierarchy in the meetings, how you present one person, which I sound totally crazy there. But actually I could notice in the meeting that nobody was familiar to the way to introduce each DDG and how they had to speak. And I basically jumped in the meeting and took that role to introduce every Deputy Director General in a standard and a professional manner. So actually there I found it very useful what I learned here during Toastmaster, and maybe that could be a subject of a speech to come, because actually it's practical usage of what we're learning here. On that note, I thank you very much to have come to this meeting today. Please join us, even as guests or as visitor or as participants or taking a role in our context next week. On that note, have a great day. Bye-bye.
Great meeting. Thank you. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.